Hello, welcome to the class. In the last class, we discussed the concept of guidance, and this chapter is guidance and counseling. In the last class, we discussed what is guidance. To remind you, guidance is a personal service provided to an individual which aims at helping the individual to solve his or her problem. And you should remember that the guide, the person who is giving guidance, he doesn't solve his problem, he doesn't make decision for the person who has problem. Instead, he helps the individual to identify the problem and find a solution to the problem. So this is what we discussed in the last class. Now coming to the concept of counseling. See, these are not two separate things, remember. Guidance and counseling are not two separate concepts. Instead, counseling is a part of overall guidance program. In order to provide guidance, the person who is guiding, does the counseling of the individual who seeks help, who comes to get help. So it is a integral part of guidance. Counseling is a integral part of guidance. After counseling, the guide will make the person in need of help understand his problems and find out a proper solution to his problems. So counseling can be defined as a specific process of assistance extended by an expert in an individualized situation to a needy person. That is, it is a kind of help given by an expert like teacher or a professional to a person who is in need of help to solve his problems, whether the problem may be associated with his learning or social life or personal life. So a problem of any sort. So this means that the counseling situation arises when a needy person is face to face with an expert who provides assistance to the needy individual. That means counseling is done when needy person, that is a person who is facing some sort of problem, he comes and asks for guidance. Then the two people, the person who is helping and the person who is in need of help, they sit together face to face and do the process of counseling. Thus, you can say that counseling is a service offered to an individual who faces a problem and needs help from a professional counselor to overcome his problem. Why? Because the problem may be disturbing the person or hindering his growth, his education, or his professional development. So you can say that counseling involves essentially two persons. One, the individual who is seeking help, who is called counselee, Counsele. Counselee is a person who is in need of help, who is facing problem. and the other person is counselor. Counselor is the person who is a professional who helps the counselee to solve his problems and orient him towards achieving his goals. Thus, we can say counseling is not giving advice or directing a person or solving his problem, but instead, like guidance, it is also a process where the counselor makes or helps the counselee to understand his problem, to find out the reasons for his problem, to find out a proper possible solution for his problem, and to implement those solution to overcome his problems. In the words of the psychologist Newsom Thorne and Weil, counseling process is concerned with change and growth. Change, but it is not the counselor who seeks to change the client. Counseling is the process concerned with change and growth. And but here the counselor is not the one who is seeking change. So it is the client who is seeking solution to his problem. So overall we can say the counselor in the process of guidance as well as in the process of counseling helps the individual to identify problem, find out problem, and find a possible solution to his problem. So the overall process of counseling involves few steps, and those steps, simplified steps, are like this. The first step is the counselee seeks an appointment and comes for help. The counselee seeks an appointment from counselor and comes for help. So the person who is in need of help, who has a problem, is called counselee. He identifies that he has some problem. To find out or to get guidance, he takes an appointment from a professional counselor. Say for example, in our situation, a student is a counselor who may be having some sort of learning problem. He takes appointment from the teacher who is the counselor to get the proper help. And the second step is the counselor. When the counselee comes to meet the counselor greets the counselee warmly, so welcomes him with a smile and establish a rapport so that the person can face him without fear and with trust. So this is important. When the counselee comes to the counselor should greet him warmly, with a smile, so that he develops a connection, a rapport with the counselee, and the counselee can without any hindrance, openly, fearlessly, with a trust, express whatever the problem he is facing. So the third step is the counselor encourages the client to express his or her feelings freely and help to express the ideas and problems. So this is the third step. Once he comes and he welcomes, then the counselor encourages the counselee, the client, the person with the problem, to express whatever the problem he is facing. That is, he may helps him to express freely, promptly his problem. And the fourth step is the counselor recognizes the negative feeling such as the expressions of fear, anger, depression, conflicts, etc. So when the counselee expresses his feelings, the counselor recognizes that the problem recognizes the problem the person is facing, that is his fears, his angers, his depressions, his conflicts, his reasons for his different depression. So whatever the anxieties, conflicts or problems he is facing, these he identifies, the counselor identifies and notes down, but does not makes any judgment. He never, but the counselor identifies the problem but does not make judgment. He listens with concerns of emotion, conflict, anxiety. his he listens with concern all his emotion, I know whatever the problem he is facing. And the fifth is step is this provides so an opportunity, the fourth step provides an opportunity for realizing the counselor help the client to develop an insight into his or her behavior. So when the you know counselee, the person in need of help, expresses his emotions, his anxieties, his problems, his fears, so the counselor identifies and then helps to identify these problems to the counselee. So the counselor says, so these are your problems, this you are facing, this problem you are facing, this X problem, Y problem. So you have to find out the reasons and solution for this. So once now the counselee understands whatever the problem he is facing with the help of counselor. And in the sixth step, with the increase in the self understanding, the counselee is able to understand his needs and set goals for himself. The counselor helps in forming new goals. And the sixth step is once the problems are being identified and the counselor makes the counselee realize the problems, now they set the goals to solve these problems, so that they can overcome these problems. This is the sixth step. And the seventh step, the counselee is able to take decisions about the actions to be initiated, and the counselor provides the necessary support and reassurance to proceed with self faith and confidence. This is you know here is the eighth. This is the eighth step. This there is some formatting error, so let me solve this. Here is the sixth point. So this is the seventh point, that is the counselor is able to take decisions about counselee, not counselor, sorry, the counselor is able to take decisions about the actions to be initiated. And so in the previous step, the counselor helps the counselee to understand his problems, so identification of problem is over. And so the counselee realizes with the help of counselor his problems. Now in the next step, the counselee is able to take decision, the counselor helps the counselee to take decisions about the actions to be initiated, what actions to be taken, so to solve those problems. And the counselor provides the necessary supports, the counselor provides the necessary support and reassurance to proceed with self-faith and confidence. So the counselor himself decide what actions to be taken to solve his problems, and the counselor helps him, provides him necessary support to manipulate so it's to uh, to identify the actions need to be taken to solve the problems with confidence. And the eighth step and the last step is the counseling is terminated when the counselor finds that the counselee needs no more help. So in the sixth step, the fifth and sixth step, the counselee identifies the problem with the help of counselor. Then in the next step, the counselee takes decision about the action to be taken to overcome those problems with the help of the counselors. And so he implements those action to overcome those problems. When those actions are implemented, the problems will be solved. And when the counselor, eighth step, when the counselor sees that there is no further need of counseling, that the counselee has solved his problem with his help, his problems are solved, then the counselor terminates the counseling and helps him to take, you know, further uh, actions. So these are um, the 8 steps that are involved in the process of counseling. I hope you have understood. The next class, and then in the next class, we'll discuss about the role of parents and teachers as counselors.